is with Maureen Meehan. And Maureen and I have worked together, but we have not really Zoomed together in the past. But Maureen is the global client partner from FranklinCovey. So she's one of the people that sort of helped us behind the scenes set this up and get this going and given us a successful foothold here in Cal Poly. So Maureen, welcome to the class tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's it's both a pleasure and an honor to be included in the conversation this evening. So thanks so much. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, and Maureen, thank you for being here. And you know, as the students know, you're our third celebrity guest. And what we do, you know, in this class is, you know, we ask people that have, you know, some deeper experience maybe with 7 habits in their lives and in their careers to come talk to us and just to get a kind of an understanding of how we might work with this, or students might integrate this into their lives and their careers. So Maureen, 7 habits, global client partner. Tell us a little bit about, you know, what that position is and what is it you do for a living?
So my job is actually a pleasure. It's more of a pleasure than a job, and I mean that sincerely. The global client partner position at FranklinCovey was created to really set a focus on how we can best support our clients. And in this case, I work only with higher education. So my clients are colleges and universities. I cover an 8-state, 2-country territory. So it's all up and down the West Coast, all the way up to Canada, all the way down to San Diego, over to Hawaii on one side, and then Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana on the other side. So I've got a fairly extensive territory, but as you can imagine, you look at places like Idaho and Montana where there's not a surplus of colleges and universities the way there certainly are in California, Washington, Oregon, et cetera. Yeah. So I work with everyone from presidents of colleges and universities, provosts, chancellors. I work with chief HR officers, chief diversity officers, really those individuals who are charged with having a vision and delivering on whatever pillars that college or university has put in place to move the institution forward. So, you know, a lot of HR and diversity work. How do we offer professional development and diversity type trainings to our employees, to our faculty, et cetera.
Okay. Yeah, Maureen. Yeah. Yeah, sort of question for you, and sure. You know, I don't know if how much you can name drop or whatnot, but I'm kind of curious. When one of the reasons I started this 7 habits here at Cal Poly was I was sort of noticing a little bit of a deficiency, really in my lean training. So I was trying to get people to do things, and I said, you know, boy, these are not very proactive people, right? You know, there's sort of a victim mentality and, oh, I can't do this. And well, you can choose to do this. It might be hard, and but you want the consequences, you want the good results. And so I've started it on the student side with this course. I've kind of offered it to the folks on the administration side at Cal Poly, and some folks have taken me up on it. I've got some spotty, you know, attendance at some of my workshops and things, but what kind of success stories maybe with other universities? Are there anybody we should emulate and say, boy, we should be like them?
So, excuse me, I'm unfortunately not at liberty to name the actual schools because of our confidentiality clauses. Sure. But I will share with you that there is a very well-known university in California, not far from a really pretty beach. And this particular university—
Isn't that all of them, though, Maureen?
Well, that's why I figured I was safe in saying that. You need to figure that out, which beach did you mean? In this particular case, in terms of emulating this university, if I could find a way to bottle up and replicate this in every university across my entire territory, I would, because this particular institution took a literal top-down approach from the president and the vice president, the chancellors, the entire board. Everyone at the top echelon of this institution bought into the idea of FranklinCovey, and not so much in the 7 Habits, although they did some of that too, but also in Leading at the Speed of Trust, which is one of our other premier courses. And they dabbled in 7 Habits, they dabbled in unconscious bias, but they really took to heart the principles and the ideas behind Leading at the Speed of Trust. So I would say that's one university that really took it seriously, to the point where the president made it a mandate, without calling it a mandate, mind you, but made it a mandate that, you know, we, the leadership team, all the deans will participate in this, will become engaged in this, and will find ways to trickle some of these principles and ideas down.
Right.
So that's one university. I will also say that Poly Pomona, who you might be familiar with, has also done a remarkable job on the student side of the house with putting in place a first-year student program and offering up 7 Habits and a number of our other courses to really help steer and guide students, many of them from underserved geographic areas, who maybe didn't have the opportunities that other students have had, academic opportunities. So Poly Pomona has done a stellar job of putting a first-year student program in place that really starts interacting with these students in high school, offers a lot multi-layers of advising throughout their time at the university. Will be offering up career advice and career placement, and then we'll continue staying in touch with those students as alumni as they continue through their life experiences. To me, it's the most thorough first-year program I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of them, so that's saying something. Yeah. So that's another one that's really just impressed me greatly.
All right, interesting. Well, I'm glad to see. I would like to see more universities and more people practice this. One of the things I've always tried to do in my career, my life, is I want to work with organizations that understand the 7 Habits, and this is like how we think and how we deal with each other. We're proactive, we choose, we think win-win, and if I can get that sort of behavior in my own environment, makes my world a nicer place. And yes. Boy, you know, if it's statewide, university-wide, you know, all the better. So Maureen, can you tell us a little bit about your education and career journey? How do you get to be a global client partner?
It's been a bit of a haphazard road, and that's probably true of many folks on the Zoom tonight. You know, you might have had intentions to start here and end here, and then somewhere along that path, you took a right, a left, another right, and another left. And so I'll start by sharing my academic journey, because the career journey would have been completely different had I not had an academic journey. But I started kind of late in life. I didn't go right from high school into a college or university because I wanted a job and I wanted money in my bank account more than I wanted a degree at that point in life. So when I did start school, it was as an adult, and I'm from Chicago, which you may or may not have caught from the accent. I spent 35 odd years in Chicago. So I earned my associate's degree in English at William Rainey Harper College in Chicago, the Chicago suburbs. I earned my undergraduate degree, a bachelor's in science with a concentration in psychology at Roosevelt University in Chicago. And then I earned my master's degree in English literature, also at Roosevelt University in Chicago. And I will say that every degree I've earned, I've done it for me. I've done it for the love of that particular subject, primarily English. And although those degrees helped me in my work, I earned them for me, to be a role model to my son, to honor my mom and dad, and just because I happen to be a lifelong learner and I couldn't imagine not learning. So I am currently, like all of you, in an online program. I'm a doctoral candidate in a Doctor of Education program at the University of Phoenix, which is at this point fully online. I had to do multiple residencies in the first few years in Phoenix, Arizona, but I'm now fully online because I'm all but dissertation, and I am working really hard to finish that little puppy, and I'm focusing on educational technology and leadership is my specific program. And so I'm working right now on chapter 3 of my dissertation, which starts getting into the heart of the study. And it is going to be by far the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life, hands down. So that's my academic journey in a nutshell.
Good. And on the career side of things,
so I've always loved technology. And when I first started, I've been in sales my entire professional life. The first iteration was 18 odd years at AT&T, starting in Detroit and then transferring over to Chicago, selling everything that had to do with telephony, telephony infrastructure, long distance, private lines, etc. So I started my sales career at AT&T, and after spending 18 years there, I took an early retirement, pretty much because they were getting rid of just about everyone as divestiture occurred. So at that point in my life, I thought, okay, what do I want to do next? I knew I wanted it to be technology. So since then, over the course of the last 20 odd years, I have worked for a number of companies that you may or may not have heard of. I worked for the University of Phoenix as faculty, but outside of that, my sales career has been primarily with technology companies, SunGard, which was all selling software as a service to higher ed, and then Gartner, which was selling software as a service also to higher ed, and then now it's with FranklinCovey, selling, it's not really called software as a service here, but it's primarily the same concept. It's selling access to our portal, and through this portal, you are able to gain access to all of our content, assessments, tests, exams, certification. You can become certified to teach our content at your institution. So it's always been some flavor of technology, software as a service, telephony, and then I took a break from sales, gosh, back in about 2009, when the whole world seemed to be turning upside down with the recession and such. And I spent a number of years as adjunct faculty teaching creative thinking, problem solving, and business acumen, which was just wonderful, wonderful. I really enjoyed it. So that's been my career journey.
Yeah. And Maureen, so of course, here we are sort of talking and trying to learn about the 7 habits. So, when did 7 habits sort of get folded into your career, life journey, educational journey?
Yeah, so I told the story in my final interview with FranklinCovey. They put you through the hoops. I think I interviewed a total of 12 or 13 people to get this position. And in my final 2 interviews, which was with Sean Covey, who's the president of education now and Dr. Covey's son, I told the story because I thought they needed to know how 7 habits changed my life. And it's a true story. So back in 1985-ish, when I was a fairly new salesperson, account executive at AT&T, I was young, I was brash, I was full of myself. I thought every word that came out of my mouth was glorious. And I was also a great salesperson. So, you know, my ego would not fit through the door. And I'm closing sales and really think I'm quite something. And I'm just acting uppity for the most part. My colleagues, they can never work fast enough or do a good enough job for me. So I constantly have snide remarks for my colleagues. And so, and keep in mind, I'm the top performer, like by a long shot. And my manager pulls me into her office one day and says, "You and I need to talk." And she and I had a pretty transparent, respectful relationship. And she said, "You need some training." And I was like, "Okay, and what?" And she said, "Well, you're going to this course called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because there are some things that you need to learn and understand." And I looked at her, I said, "Yeah, I think I'm doing pretty good in that department. Thanks, I'll take a pass. I've got sales to close and awards to win." And she looked at me, she said, "You're not understanding. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you you're going to this course." And she said, "I'm telling you right now, I'm going to ask the instructor about your demeanor during this course. And if I find out that you were sitting there with your arms crossed, making faces, you will be fired. You will lose your job." And I laughed and I said, "You're not going to fire me. I'm the top performer here. That's a joke, right?" And she stood back and she said, "You know, it's more than sales. This job is more than sales. It's working with people. It's having a collaborative spirit, a collaborative mindset. It's working as a team. It's respecting the points of view and the expertise other people bring to this organization and to this company. And you don't have any of that. Or if you do, you're keeping it a secret." So I realized I put myself in a bit of a sticky situation, and I went to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People workshop. And I am sitting there with my arms crossed, trying not to make a face because I really didn't want to lose my job. I quite enjoyed it. And as the instructor, the facilitator started talking about the 7 habits, I was like, "Okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, I get that. I get that." And then they got to habit 5, which I'm sure all of you at this point know it's all about seek first to understand and then to be understood. When I heard the facilitator talking about seek first to understand, I literally sat there in complete shock, because this principle was the exact opposite of everything I'd ever been told that a salesperson should be doing, right? A salesperson is supposed to be aggressive and get in their face and tell them about the service and tell them why they need it and tell them where to sign. And boom, you'll get the signature and you go on to the next one and do it all over again. And this was obviously a long time ago. Things have changed since then. But that was the mindset that I was literally trained on how to sell like this. So what this facilitator is telling me is blowing my mind, because the exact opposite of everything I've been trained and learned and thought I did really well. And from that moment on, seek first to understand, I realized how abrasive I had become in my role as an account executive. And it didn't just change my paradigm, it changed the way I looked at myself. It changed the lens through which I looked at every person and everything happening in the world. And I left that session like breathing differently. I don't know how else to explain it, but it changed everything in one day. And if I heard someone else tell this story and had not gone through this myself, I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, that's the biggest slice of cheesecake, romance, rom-com story I've ever heard in my life." But it really happened. And I went back to my manager and I sat down, and the first thing I said to her was, "Thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to learn, to observe, to understand, and to embrace some new principles that I can be proud of, that will make a difference in my world and will make a difference in other people's worlds as well. So that's my 7 Habits story and how it turned everything upside down in all the best ways possible.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great story, Maureen. So I want to encourage the students, to get some questions in here. So we've got access to Maureen, and you kind of heard a little bit of the initiation of her 7 Habits journey. We can always ask her a little bit more, and then what happened, to find out sort of the rest of the story here. And I want to encourage the students to jump in there and get their questions answered. So Maureen, so the pre-programmed question at this point now is, okay, yeah, what happened next? And I think in the context of that, or the way that question sort of goes, is, well, how do you apply the 7 habits now? So that was it sounds like a big aha and insight for you, and then went on. Do you apply the 7 habits in your current job, or how does that work?
So I will say, and this is probably true of everyone here, you probably all have favorites, right? I mean, it'd be nice to say, oh, I love them all, and I do love them all. But realistically, do I apply all of them? No, I don't, because I do have favorites, and that's where I tend to focus more. So I used to think sharpen the saw was the one that I spent the least amount of time and energy on. And as I was kind of mentally preparing myself for this conversation tonight with all of you, I laughed at myself. I was like, no, that's not true, because sharpen the saw is really about self-reflection, right? Where am I putting my energy? How am I taking care of myself? How can I be a better version of me? What can I be doing differently? And I realized, I started my education back in roughly 1985, right after that FranklinCovey course. I'm not kidding you, is when I applied for an associate's degree, because I knew there was a better version of me out there. And so I will say, although I don't think in terms of sharpening the saw, I do it every day. I do it unconsciously every day. And maybe that's the best possible application of any of these principles, is that when you start doing it unconsciously, right, you've kind of taken a leap, right? Yeah. So other than sharpening the saw and seeking first to understand, I would say the other one that stays front of mind for me is being proactive. There's so much noise coming at us every single day in 100,000 different forms. And it's so easy to lose track of what's important and what needs to be done versus what's clamoring for your attention the loudest, that I would say being proactive has helped me to be a better sales professional. It has helped me to be a much better student, because I have learned over the years that, as much as I want to go and have dinner and drinks with my friends, or stay up and watch whatever the newest thing is on Netflix, or, whatever it is. Yeah. Those are all nice, exciting things to do, but I have to be proactive about my education. Otherwise it'll never get done. So I've just learned over the years to learn how to say no to invitations or ideas or places and things I would kind of rather be doing. Right. Because I have to be proactive about finishing this degree. So, and that certainly happens in work as well. Eric, you can speak to that, right? It's what's the saying? The loudest, what is it? I just lost my train of thought there. The squeaky wheel, right? Yeah. The squeaky wheel, right? Gets the most attention because that squeak is so annoying. But you have to just learn to close out the noise. Learn to say no in a very friendly and professional manner. And it's perfectly okay to tell people no if you, in fact, don't have time to do what they want you to do. Yeah. So I would say those are just a few comments.
Well, and this is, so one of my, I think this is a Stephen Coveyism, and it's now so sort of, blended into my mind and my thinking. But I remember, talking about this idea of saying no, and I think he said it's always easier to say no when you have a bigger yes inside your heart, right?
Yes, and, exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
and that's it. And that's a paradigm thing, right? You say, okay, I know what's important, and you know, I've got to make those sorts of judgments, right?
Yes, and you can actually practice that. And I mean that seriously. I have a friend and a cousin and a son. And between the three of them, when I feel I'm really, really stuck in a predicament and I don't want to say no to someone, either because they have some power or influence over me, and I don't want to jeopardize that, or because I genuinely care or like this person and don't want to hurt their feelings and don't want them to think badly of me, I will practice sometimes and I'll say, okay, how does this sound? I'd really like to help you out today, but I can't. But that doesn't mean I can't help you tomorrow or later in the week or even over the weekend. And just literally practice ways to say no that feel comfortable to you, because it's going to be different for everyone.
Right.
And that's helped me. So I am a maestro at saying no. I don't feel guilt, and I never feel badly about saying no, because I always try to offer up an alternate solution or an alternate time frame.
Right. And that, you know, and in line with what we've been recently sort of learning about proactivity, that stimulus response, right? So the stimulus is, you know, someone you love or respect asks you a question, and your immediate response is, I want to say yes, but you got to stop, think, you know, provide alternatives, you know, that space for that reaction it's a really valuable habit, I think. You know,
it is. And I will say that if there's been a silver lining to the pandemic, you know, we've all been on back-to-back Zooms, or I'll speak for myself. I have been on back-to-back Zooms. I mean, literally back-to-back. So I've now incorporated this into my no, I can't help you out with that because I'm just about to jump onto a Zoom call, like back-to-back calls all day. But I can carve 30 minutes out tomorrow afternoon and let's talk.
Right.
And it's not that I'm lying, because I really am on back-to-back Zoom calls. But even if I don't have one starting in 10 minutes, I might say that just because it buys me time to catch my breath before the next call actually starts.
Well, and that's a little that sort of sharpen the saw.
That's right.
You need that recovery time, and
that's right.
The personal renewal sort of piece, right?
Absolutely.
So, you know, I was trying to think of a way to work this into the class, and I haven't sort of figured it out. But you know, since you mentioned that, you know, proactivity, habit one might be sort of your favorite habit. So I want to share with you. So I am also a proactivity thing. I've got this little wristband here. I don't know. Let's see. I gotta sort of figure out how to get my thing. But it's my little I choose, you know, wristband. On the back side of it has the last human freedom, you know, is on the back side of this. And I had this. I actually got this as a present from my daughter. She was going through some tough times with a job that, you know, she was on, and she was getting kind of squeezed in some high level office politics, and you know, and I guess so the other part of it. So we're sort of talking, and we talked about, oh, well, remember, you know, we talked about this when you were younger, you know, the I choose and things like that. And says, yeah, I remember, and you know, that's so important and whatnot. And we talked about, you know, the sort of the larger concept and whatnot. And this, you know, this little green wristband, you know, I talked her into doing this because the alternative she was going to have this tattooed somewhere on it, right?
Oh, okay.
You know, she's a tattoo person, and I was thinking, oh no, not another can't we think of something else that you could do that would commemorate, you know, this choice that would be a little less permanent.
So that was your win-win, huh?
Yeah, that was my win-win. That was my win-win.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So other questions or comments from folks out there in the audience? Who can sort of help us out? We gotta have at least a question or two for Maureen here.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian. Thank you.
So you talked about sales a lot, and sales is something I'm kind of interested in. I was wondering, what was like the biggest thing you either incorporated into your sales career, or what was one of the biggest things you noticed change after?
That's a great question. Thank you. I will say that after finishing that 7 Habits course, I went back and sat down with my manager first, and I said to her, I'd like a little work session with you. Said I need to, we're talking about a huge paradigm change here from a sales perspective. So I'm kind of rewriting everything. I'm rewriting my sales approach to fit with some of these principles I've learned, to pay homage to some of these principles, if you will. So one of the first things I did is I sat down, and I learn best by writing things out first, reading them multiple times, and then I type them up and send them to myself as a note. So that's how I learn. That's the repetition I need to learn. So she and I sat down in a workshop kind of setting, and we actually created a script that I could become familiar with. So instead of walking in, here's my typical sales approach: walk into a meeting, and I'd say, if you were my prospect, I'd say, hey, so nice to meet you. Thanks for your time today. So what are you looking for? What do you need? And you would say, well, we're trying to cut costs, and we're understaffed, and our funds, shrinking funds, and all of the different business reasons that people need help. And before you would even finish with your comments, I would already be creating the responses in my head. So I'm not actually even listening to you at this point. Your mouth is moving, but I'm already putting the response together in my head, because I know exactly what you need at this point. Like 4 minutes into the conversation, I know what you need. So I had to stop doing that, and I had to find a comfortable way to walk in and meet with a prospect and say, help me understand. Help me understand what some of your business challenges are, what some of your financial challenges are, and equally important, where are you trying to go to? Just help me understand. And then I'd sit back and I would close my mouth. And again, this was so alien to me, and it took a lot of practice, but I started noticing really quickly, people love to talk. People love to talk. And I'd have these prospects telling me, I need this and this, and if I could do this instead of this, and here's how much money I have to spend. Holy mackerel. I left there having everything I needed to make a proper proposal the next day. So I would say completely turning that approach, asking a couple questions, and then listening, right? Seeking first to understand, listening made all the difference in the world. Just, it changed my demeanor. It changed the actual language I used when I spoke to clients, and it made me more comfortable too, because it felt more conversational, right? I didn't feel like I was selling them something.
Good insight. Let's see, Michael, you've got a question. Why don't you go ahead and pop on and ask that? Let's see, Michael, you put a question in the chat.
Oh, sorry, I don't have my glasses on, so if you don't mind giving it to me verbally, I'd appreciate it.
I can read it for you. Or
Yeah,
Michael,
thanks.
Share it.
Just give my eyes a break tonight, thanks.
I was just wondering, because a lot of us are in our last year here at Cal Poly and are going to be starting at like full-time positions at a lot of places. So, thanks. What do you think the most important habits are when we're joining a new workplace and making a good impact and taking on responsibility?
Like $1 million question right there. I am going to say, I'm going to stick with 5, because you have to be in understanding mode, especially a new job, right? You have to understand the culture. You have to understand the business process, the systems. You need to understand who to steer clear of, who you might want to reach out to be a mentor. You have to learn and understand so much in a new position. So I would say the more you sit back, ask a few pointed questions, and then go into listening mode, the better, because you'll learn more that way. And I believe the people around you, your new colleagues, will sit back and say, I like this guy. He's a listener more than he is a talker, which means he's open to learn, he's open to new ideas, and he's being respectful of the people around him and asking their opinions. So I would say you can't go wrong with 5, but simultaneously, because these principles are kind of meant to interact with each other. Yeah. Simultaneously, I would say be proactive about asking questions, but not in a general manner. Ask specific questions of specific people. So if you need to understand the culture of the company, if it's appropriate, why not ask for a one-on-one with your chief people officer or whatever title they go by? If you want to be proactive about how do all of our systems work together, so when I get a report, I'll understand what it means, or I'll understand how to create one of those reports. Be proactive about your questions and your interest level.
Yeah. Maureen, I really like that, and seeking to understand is really good. I think the other thing, Michael, and this is that interactive thing that Maureen's talking about, and we'll talk about this, is the attitude of win-win, in that understanding. And if you kind of go into that new job saying, I really want to understand what a win is for this organization, right? I know, like, a win for me would be a good job, a good salary, rewarding workplace life, but understanding what the win is for the organization, the customers, your fellow employees, choose to go for that kind of understanding. That would be a really good thing. So good for you.
I think it's a great point. And I'm just going to say this because what's important to you, to each one of you, will probably change over time. When I was in my 20s, all I cared about was making bank. Bank, 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 bank. How big is that commission check going to be? It's all I cared about. And at that time, that was what excited me, and that's what kept me very much proactive about my job. And over time, I still like to get a good paycheck, don't get me wrong, but what's important to me now is completely different. What's important to me now is feeling like I'm doing something meaningful, being respected by my colleagues who are amazing, and having interactions with my client so that when I hang up the phone or turn off the Zoom, I sit back and I think that was a remarkable conversation.
Yeah. Excellent.
So it's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Maureen, I'm gonna kind of call it this one. We've been talking a while now. Some great insights, and I really appreciate your being here and talking with us. Is there any parting words of wisdom that you want to share with these sort of new to 7 Habits students out there?
So I thought about that a lot earlier when you kind of posed what some of the questions might be, which thank you. I appreciate having that outlined greatly. And I would say if there's advice that I was going to share with you, it would be the same advice I share with my kid, my adult kid, and with friends when they ask. And there's 3 things. First of all, I would say, please be open-minded. And the second part of that is be honest when you don't know the answer to something. No one expects you to know all the answers to all the questions that are going to come across at any point in your life. So be open-minded, number 1, because trust me, you will learn something from someone if you do that. Be honest when you don't know the answer. I used to BS my way out of stuff all the time. And in retrospect, I think, first of all, I sounded like an idiot lying all the time or pretending I knew the answer. And I missed so many opportunities to learn by not saying, I don't know the answer to that, but I'd like to learn. And then the third thing I'm going to say is, and it's particularly appropriate since I'm a student and you are all students, always be learning. Always, always, always be learning. Keep it alive, keep it fresh, keep it moving forward in whatever fashion that works for you, but always be learning.
Maureen, that excellent advice. And once again, thank you very much. I'm going to ask everybody that can go ahead and turn on your video. let's give Maureen a little bit of a thank you and a Zoom wave.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. You guys keep up the good work. You should be so proud of yourselves for continuing your education, and all the best luck to each and every one of you. Take care.
All right, take care.